So, a 5-minute call, Jan Logie.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. The Green Party is opposing the social housing reform transaction mandate bill. This bill is part of a much wider agenda to reduce the function of government while increasing the power of the executive and providing more opportunities for property developers and business. This bill is part of the sell-off of our state homes. And the Green Party believes that housing should, in opposition to this bill, be treated as core infrastructure in this country. We need to have a plan to ensure we have enough houses, that those houses that we have are warm and dry and keeping us well, and are connected to public transport and are able to support community well-being. That is what we stand for. We stand for state housing and community housing alongside each other as part of a plan of housing as core infrastructure. The government, though, has decided to run down our state houses, leave the market to continue delivering damp, unsafe houses, leave it to the market to deliver unaffordable new houses and make it harder to get into a state house and kick out the families if they start earning too much. And when we've heard from members on that side of the House tonight about how you can't expect a house for life, that's just being entitled. Well, I'd like to see them say that to the face of the veterans who were promised a house for life at the end of the Second World War and have been kicked out. I'd like to see you have that conversation with them to their face and tell them that they're being entitled to expect the delivery of that promise. The government has said that this is all about supporting community social housing and that we're being communists for resisting this measure, despite the fact that they've sold 472 houses since September last year, I understand, and not one of those houses has gone to a community housing provider. Tell me how this is about supporting community housing. Tell me how putting government policy onto community housing providers is about supporting the role of a vibrant community housing sector. That is not. That is about actually turning them into a cheaper arm of the state so that you abdicate your responsibility, put more pressure onto them and reduce your own costs. That is not delivering for New Zealanders. That is not delivering for the most vulnerable or actually giving credit or any respect to the absolute power of innovation in our community. It is not doing respect to any of those things that you are giving lip service to. What this bill actually does is give 2 ministers special authority to direct the sales and leases of Housing New Zealand properties. Under existing rules, ministers are able to direct the Housing New Zealand Board to implement government policy, but they can't dictate specific acts or sales. This overrides it. This is an overriding of the core function of the public sector. Not only is this about reducing the role of the state in terms of state housing and our ability as a country to have some democratic control. And while the government says and suggests, we've heard 4 times tonight, I think that it's a communist plot to suggest that we have state housing. The point of state housing is, if you're running down the houses and people are upset about it, they can vote and tell you that they're unhappy about that. When we put it out to property developers or even community organisations, it's at one arm's length removed from our democratic control. That is the point of state housing, is to enable New Zealanders to have some say over what is delivered and to have a direct interaction with that. And we don't get that in this model when you're selling things off to property developers. It is not in the best interests of the country. And for the government to say that 2 ministers can be responsible for 60,000 families, for $1 billion portfolio, only having to report to this House to tell us what they've sold off and to who, but with no other control, overriding all of the free and frank advice that might be provided from the public service, is frankly extraordinary, and we have want no part of this bill.
Yay, cool. I call Jenny Salisa, 5 minutes.